Hello and welcome back to Web Design for Small Business. In this video, part 16, PHP navigation, we're going to go through and create some of the pages that we had linked to in the previous video. So to start, we're going to go into our NetBeans and load up our index.php page. Then if we scroll down past our header and into the actual body, you will find that we have this placeholder here with the div and ID page content. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new line under our H4, and it's going to be a PHP tag, and it is going to just simply echo page content, semicolon. Okay, but we're going to take that actually one step further. We're going to put that in curly bracers, and we're going to create an if statement. So if page content, echo page content. Basically what this means is it checks to see if page content exists. If it does, then it's going to echo it out. Very simple, and that's basically the context that we're going to use for our individual PHP pages. All right. However, we're also going to add something above this. So above our H4, but still within the page content div, we're going to create another div. And this one, we're going to give an ID of messages. And we're not going to actually do anything with this now. This is just for future reference. This is where our error messages and confirmation messages are going to go. We're going to create a little banner at the top for them. But for now, because that requires JavaScript and we haven't covered JavaScript yet, we'll come back to that later. Okay, so that's all we need for our index page for now. So we're going to save that, and we're going to go and open up our home.php page. Okay, so in here we're going to create our PHP tag. And we're going to create a page content is equal to double dot and semicolon. Okay, save that. Go back into our index page. We're going to cut out this line. Control X for cut, and then we can just backspace out that line, save that, go into our home, and we're going to paste that in between these single quotes. And we're going to save that. Now we're going to go back to our website, make sure we're on the home page, and just load that. And as you can see, nothing has actually changed. However, if we go to one of these other sections, you'll note that that is now gone. However, if you note, all of these things are still blanked out. So what we need to do now is go and remove that disabled. So we're going to go back into our index.php file, go up to our menu, and each of these classes where it says disabled, we are going to delete those classes. And because we don't have any other classes listed, we can actually just delete the class attribute altogether. save that. Oh, I missed one here. Okay, and refresh that. And now you can see all of these are active like we would want them to be. Alright. So again, we click on any of these and it doesn't show us anything, but if we go back to the home, which is our little icon there, we get our message again, which is what we want. Okay. So now we want to go one step further and we want to create actual boxes to put these in, to give it some definition. So we are going to use what they call in Bootstrap a panel. So going back to our home page, now you note that when I hit enter, it created this blank, so it just left us with a double or a pair of single quotes. On the next line there is a dot and a single quote, so it basically created this when I hit enter, but I don't actually want that. So like that. Now the reason why it does that is because it doesn't actually like when you do stuff like that, because it creates white space. Now in straight up PHP it doesn't really matter. It can in certain circumstances where it wants everything to be on a single line, especially when we're dealing with JavaScript. But for this it doesn't really matter. So I like to keep it a little bit cleaner and just kind of do it like this. Okay. So now we want to create a div with a class of panel space panel default. Div and save that, and we can just go back to our home page to see what that looks like. Okay, so all it did was literally just put a box around this text. So we're going to take this one step further now, and we're going to create a div with a class of panel heading, panel hyphen heading. And you note that now when I'm typing, it doesn't automatically create the second quote for me or anything like that. And that's because I'm doing it within PHP and within a string, so it doesn't automatically encode the HTML within that, because this is all seen as a single text string within PHP, and that's why I'm not getting that. So one thing you could do if you don't like doing it that way and you want to see your code, you could just get rid of the string and just have it highlight your code as normal. But I'm just used to doing it this way. Okay. So close that div out. Keep that tabbed out. Actually, we're going to not make that the header. And this one is going to be panel body. Okay. And if we want to go one step further, you can also add a panel footer if you wanted that bottom section. So this is basically the exact same as our modal setup, except it's flattened on the page instead of brought out in a pop-up. And that kind of keeps your look consistent throughout the site. So saving that, I know I left the header blank. So you can see the header is gold there, and the text background is the same color. So in here, I am just going to give it an H2. I'm going to give this a header of family dining, if I can spell that right. Save that, refresh, family dining. Okay. So now I want to kind of clean up what my panel looks like, because I'm not quite happy with this look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go in and round out those corners to the same as we did with the modal, and change and thicken up the borders as well. And quite possibly center this text. I might leave it there, we'll see. All the headers on their menu for the Highway 45 restaurants, all their pre-done stuff, all has centered headings, so I will end up centering the heading on that. So anyway, we go into our CSS, go down to the bottom. Because I want it to look the exact same as both of these, I might just be able to add those in here. Dot. Note one big difference between the modal header and the panel header is the wording. With panel it's heading, with modal it's header. I don't know why that is, but it is. Okay, so I'm going to save this. This might not work. I might have to do panel default because panel default comes after, and it may overwrite some of those settings. However, it did not, so that works for me. The one thing I will do though is add the into the header that I want that to be centered. And I'm actually going to add it into this header, so it affects both the modal header and the panel header. So now you see that is centered. And that is just text align as the attribute and center. Okay, so now we got that looking a little sharper. Now you can actually change what that width is, but I find that just the default tends to work pretty good. And we're going to have more information under here later, but for now we can just kind of leave it as that. we will quickly do one thing. So just tighten that up, save that. We're going to copy this, close our home, and we're going to go into each of these other ones and just do a paste, and then we're just going to change the title to each of the sections. And note that instead of just using an ampersand, I did use the and amp semicolon, which is the code for ampersands. Might not necessarily have to do that, but it's always good practice to use those whenever possible. And you notice that what I'm doing these ones, I'm renaming them. So renaming the headers, but I'm not just naming them what the button is, I'm actually giving it a longer, more descriptive name. Okay, so having done that with each of them, now when we go back into here and we refresh and we click on any of these, we actually get pages instead of blank space. Now they all get the same message and there's no actual content in any of them, but it's one step closer.